That was bad. The Seahawks lose to the Buffalo Bills in just an ugly football game, 31-10. And this was so bad, folks, that there's no one on this team you can point to that's not responsible. As we were going through the chat as this game concluded, I was asking folks who's the most to blame. And I probably got about 10 different answers. The offensive line, Ryan Grubb, Mike Macdonald, Geno Smith, the running backs, the defense. I mean, everybody had issues today. It was just disgusting what we saw. This was one of the worst Seahawks games I've seen in a long time. And the 10 points, that touchdown they got was late in this game when this game was already decided. So it could have been a lot worse other than that garbage time touchdown the Seahawks got in this game. And there's so many missed opportunities to talk about today. When you had so many chances in the red zone, one of them results in a fourth down where you were shut down on your own goal line. There was another time where the Seahawks had a high snap from Connor Williams, which ultimately resulted in the Seahawks settling for a field goal when it should have been 7 points. Just mistakes after mistakes. And I look at the coaching staff. Mike Macdonald had a terrible game plan. Ryan Grubb had a terrible game plan. AD had a terrible game plan on the defense. The offensive line was a joke. Geno did not play well. The run game was abysmal. I'm going to show you a number here in a moment that's just going to blow your mind when we talk about the rushing total this team had. It was awful. And last week, here's the saddest part of all, folks. I think when we saw that Atlanta game last week, we were sitting here saying to ourselves, this might be a turning point in the season. Here they are, coming off the mini bye week, and they just dominate on the road against Atlanta, a very good Atlanta team, I think. And after all that, now we're back to square one again. Where it's like, what the actual hell here, folks? This is painful. And there's a lot to go around. The injury front was about the only real positive today. That you had Dre'Mont Jones get banged up with a shoulder issue. But that was about it. So it wasn't a loss that we sit here and say, wow, everybody got banged up, and that's the excuse. No, there's no excuses. And I understand. Believe me, the Buffalo Bills, I'll be the first to tell you, are a very, very good football team. But, my Lord, that was bad. What is your one-word reaction to the Seahawks' performance against Buffalo? My one word is barf. I wanted to barf watching that football game. This game was decided before we even got to the fourth quarter. And there was never a time in this game where it was a sense of hope, where you said, wow, Seahawks have a chance here. They could turn this around. If they just do this differently or that, then they're going to be right back in this football game. The Bills were the better team. They were the better coach team. They won in every way possible today. And the numbers are going to show you in just a moment are just, you're going to want to hide the women and children. Let's put it that way. Despite the outcome, we still enjoyed ourselves on our watch party. I got to shout out Dan the Man Miller and Kelly Smith. Both of them were fantastic. Sending in super chats all day long. Kelly was the MVP. Dan won the raffle to get the Seahawks clock. And if you missed out on the watch party, even with the loss, we still enjoyed ourselves on the channel. Make sure to join us for our next watch party. Maybe you were one of the Seahawks fans that was leaving the stadium early. And honestly, I couldn't blame you if you left early. But what you should have done is you should have hung out with us as we were live, win or lose, throughout the game and the postgame. We enjoyed ourselves. Make sure to join us for our next watch party here on Seahawks Today. Help us reach our next milestone. 59,000 subscribers on the channel, just over 250 away from reaching that mark. YouTube.com/Seahawks TV. Subscribe now. All right, let's go over these painful numbers here. Let's start with Geno Smith. 21 of 29, 212 yards, and interception. Could never get in rhythm throughout the day. we wondered what this offense would look like without DK Metcalf. And if I was DK after today, I'd be saying, you know that extension we've been talking about? Yeah, you got to pay me. And this should silence anyone out there that's saying they need to move on from DK, that they need to get draft capital for him and shouldn't pay him and all that. I mean, DK showed his worth today without even playing a down out there. This team was lethargic. They were totally different without having their best offensive weapon today. You look at the receiving corps. JSN was okay. 6 catches, 69 yards, but no one else really stood out. A.J. Barner had a couple nice grabs. He ended up with 34 yards. Kenneth Walker out of the backfield, 4 catches, 33 yards. But Noah Fant, I was expected more out of. Jake Bobo only had 1 catch. Tyler Lockett, 1 catch for 9 yards today. Tyler Lockett, my guy, this should have been your time. This should have been your moment to stand out without having DK there. The time for Tyler Lockett to step up, and he didn't do so. Granted, the offensive line did them no favors whatsoever, but it was just a bad day all around. Now, let's get to the topic that you all knew was coming. Let's talk about that run game. Here we go, folks. Kenneth Walker, 9 carries, 12 yards, 1.3 yards a carry. Geno led this team in rushing with 5 carries for 16 yards, average 3.2 yards a carry. Zach Charbonnet did have a touchdown score, 3 carries, 4 yards. And as a whole, the final number, 17 carries, 32 yards, 1.9 yards a carry. I believe I have this right. At halftime, the Seahawks had 3 total rushing yards. That's it. The run game was embarrassing. The run game was awful. This was a joke. And I look at the offensive line. Yeah, we know that. The offensive line is shit. That's no secret. We knew that before the season began. The offensive line was bad. But then, folks, the play calling. My Lord. Ryan Grubb. I mean, stop running this college offense. You have to find ways to run the football. And they did not get creative. I understand the offensive line had their struggles, but that's when you got to mix things up. Then you got to find ways, all right, do we run to the outside? Do we run inside? It was the same thing over and over again from this run game. No wonder they sucked. There was no creativity from what Ryan Grubb did with this run game. Ryan Grubb, I got to tell you, I'm having my doubts. I think we all should, because he's not adapting to the NFL game the way he should. And they are way too set on throwing the football 40-plus times a game, it seems. Today was 29. But you have to run the football to win in the National Football League, and they're not doing that. And Ryan Grubb is a big reason to blame. 2 turnovers, that didn't help. You didn't control the football. We told you in our preview that this needed to be a game where you controlled the clock and shortened the game. You didn't want to get in a shootout with Buffalo. They didn't do that at all. Just horrendous. Who was Seattle's MVP against the Bills? I feel guilty even asking this question. An MVP? Who was it? I vote nobody. Give me your answer in the comments section. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. Choose 2 or more players on any given category. Get the choice of more or less, whether you're talking fantasy points in football, rebounds in basketball, goals in hockey, all sorts of different categories to choose from. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. I went with Kenneth Walker to have more than 64.5 rushing yards. That did not work. I went with Patrick Mahomes to have more than 229.5 passing yards. I believe he did hit that. If it would have worked out, I could have turned $20 into $60. But you know what? There's always next week. Play along with me, prizepicks.com/CLNS, and take advantage of their offer of $5. When you put $5 down, you get $50 for free. You don't have to win to get the money. Check it out, prizepicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS. The thing that I found interesting today, I don't feel like the Bills did anything that special, to be honest. I know they had 445 yards. Run game, 164 yards, 281 passing yards, controlled the clock. But this was a game where I thought the Seahawks got in their own way more than the Bills just dominating them. This was a game where if you eliminate the self-inflicted wounds and the costly mistakes from Seattle, then we may have had a competitive game. We may have had a good football game here. Instead, you got in your own way and you got blown out by 21 at home. So that's just not going to work. Buffalo's too good to allow that to happen. We told you in the preview that how good Buffalo is with being one of the best teams in the AFC. You were going to need a perfect game today to have a chance. And you didn't even give yourself a chance with just how many mistakes you made time and time again. And now you're sitting here at 4-4. Doesn't feel great, especially after what happened last week. The silver lining is the division's wide open. Cardinals, Niners, Rams, there's not a whole lot of separation right now. And you got a big divisional game coming up against the LA Rams next week. And the Rams played Thursday, so they're going to have a few extra days of rest compared to the Seahawks playing this on this Sunday here. I went from at the beginning of the year starting 3-0 being like, hey, this is pretty good. They haven't beaten any good teams, but hey, 3-0 is 3-0. They're in good shape. They look like a playoff team. Now I'm questioning everything about this Seahawks team at this point. Where do they go from here? For the crowd that wants to tank and all that, we're far, way past that. There's no tanking involved here. Not when you just traded for Ernest Jones. So I don't want to hear any of you about tanking and all that. That's way past that. You still have to march on ahead, and you've got a lot of stuff to figure out here in the coming weeks. How would you grade the Seahawks' performance against the Bills? A, B, C, D, or F? I'm going F. That's an F performance for me. Everybody failed. Everybody failed this team today. I'm going F. Give me your grade. For continuing Seahawks coverage, it's going to be an interesting week. We will dissect it all here on the channel. Stay tuned for that. Subscribe now, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. I'm Tyler Jones. We'll see you next time.